So good afternoon. Today we have an update on our Bosch AL69X alternator we manufactured, which I put in, I think it was October or November, somewhere around there. And I have been driving the last 2 or 3 weeks, very little, short distances, 3-5 miles and that sort of stuff, with the air conditioner going, and my battery went further down and down. And so on Saturday, I decided I took a trip over to our favorite big box retailer, and we got us this thing here. It's not the most precise unit, but it got the big resistors in it for load testing. And I wanted to see where we are with the charging. When the air conditioning is running and you turn the headlights on and the windshield wipers, basically when everything is running, that thing is at maximum capacity. The car running needs most of the juice. The fuel pumps right out of the start draw about 10 amps, and then the entire electric in here another 10 to 15, so 25 amps when you don't run any ventilation or any lights or any windshield wipers or seat heaters and that sort of stuff. And so the 80 amps, for my conclusion here, or for my observation, is basically the original one. We're running at 14 volts. Bosch got them at 14. I put the charger on yesterday, the big charger, and I got the battery fully charged together, so it's not too deep charged. Air conditioning, these two fans about 15 amps. The compressor, I would say 5 to 10 amps. And then the new blower I put in last year, probably another 25 amps or so. So if you're running this and these fans kick in, then with the rest of it, this thing has a hard time charging, and the charging voltage drops down to about 12.9 volts, which means that battery, the S6, takes good an hour driving to actually keep charging if it is already slightly depleted. And that was the issue we had with these big cars with the air conditioners, with the big V8s and even the 6 cylinders, because of the electric use. I'm going to see if I'm going to find a 100 amp or 125 amp which fits in here. If you know of another manufacturer who makes these alternators which would fit in here, which are not Bosch or Mercedes-Benz, and they have 120 amp or so output, I would appreciate it if you could leave me a comment in the comment section, and then I will take a look at this. Even if you change the voltage regulator to 14.5 volts, it probably will not get there sufficiently enough. The current drawn by the engine does not leave a lot of current for charging, especially when the battery is kind of on the low side and short distance driving. Back in the days when I worked for Mercedes-Benz, back in 87, 88, 86, and they were doing the W140, we had a V8 prototype and the V12 prototype, and they put 100 amp in there, and I said to the engineers, which were a lot older at that time than I was, and I said I didn't think that the 100 amp would be sufficient enough, because the big 140s, they take even more power because they got more electronics in it. And I suggested for them to use a 140 or 150 amp alternator, and they couldn't kind of grasp this concept that someone would drive a short distance, say like 3 to 5 miles, and then start the car again, go to another store. And I was told by the senior engineers and the department heads of the R&D department that these vehicles, and this is the same one with this here, were not used for this kind of driving. The executive would step in the back seat, and the driver would drive him then through his daily appointments, hundreds of kilometers or miles apart. So they would be driving 1, 2, 3 hours to go from one place to another. and that would be sufficient. And that's how that turns out. So this is how these cars wound up with these undersized alternators. As shorter the driving is and as hotter the temperatures are and as more consumers you got running, as worse the charging situation gets for these big batteries. I'm going to turn on here in a second, and then I'm going to show you what our charging meter here, our $21 and change from the big box retailers, going to show us. Okay, so I started it up now, and we can see we got a good charge now. The whole system has come back up. Let me turn on the air conditioning and see how the thing is going to drop down. Here we go. Here comes the fan. Here, everything looks good here. I did an oil change this weekend too. The engine is running nice and smooth. You can see the compressor is running. And you can see we have dropped down with the voltage right to 14 because the battery is now full. But you can hear the alternator is laboring. Let's see if these fans come on. Yeah, and the fans just kicked in and we dropped right down to about 13.5 volts. Now they dropped back out. So you can see this, that the alternator is having a hard time actually. So this is what I wanted to show you. And now we're coming back up. So when the air conditioning is running with the fan or the lower on high, this is what this looks like. There we go. Fan came back on. We're probably at 13.5 now, right at the low mark. Yeah, well, with that, have a great afternoon and let me know in the comment section. Thank you.